Hi everyone, Tony's here. Today we have a very special guest. It's an old friend of ours, and her name is Liudmila Kiriaku. She's Vice President of Compliance in Freedom Holding. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. First of all, good evening everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me and having me the pleasure of having this in-person interview with you.
It's the first in-person interview on our channel, which is fantastic here in Limassol, in Cyprus, to have our dear guest. Liudmila, can you start maybe with talking a bit about Freedom Holding?
Yeah, Freedom Holding, it's a Nasdaq-listed company which got listed just like a few days ago. It was 3 years anniversary when the ticker of the company went on Nasdaq. So, and it has different kind of companies, brokers, regulated brokers, banks, insurance companies, and many other, let's say, different jurisdictions, but majority is like broker with normal stocks, let's say, not CFD business, but normal stock
Securities.
exchange. Yeah, securities and banking services. So yeah, and the company is growing in different jurisdictions.
And which jurisdictions mainly, like if you can give us the geography?
So now, and it's been like for the last few years, Kazakhstan became like the leading jurisdiction for different reasons. And the main, let's say, goal of the owner of the company, Timur, is to make digitalization, let's put it this way, to as many services as possible.
And as far as I know, yeah, you work on Nasdaq, so you have a US part of the business, and like
we don't work. It's actually the holding company is only listed on Nasdaq, so it's just a holding company. There is no operation on the US level, so it's only that. Operational companies are all subsidiaries of the group.
Okay, so you came as a vice president not quite a long time ago. Where do you start off, for example, before Freedom?
My actual background, okay, it's management. It's been like my first degree. Then for family reasons, I was not like working. And I started here in Cyprus. I always wanted to have like finance. I was interested in that. And I started just with a normal, like just an office manager or something like that in a regulated company by CySEC. And being a little bit of perfectionist or something like that, or I don't like doing things without understanding why they have to be done, why they have to be done this way. So I used to come to people and ask them, why do we do this? Why it's like that? Come on, yeah, I mean, it's just becoming so heavy. Go and read the law, go read this. Okay, if you know so well the law, so go and see the exams. Back then it was Ministry of Finance of Cyprus. So yeah, this is how it started, and slowly compliance department started grabbing me. So it's been back in 2008. Oh. Yeah, with one broker, and when they started going more and more, Forex started becoming, let's say, something really popular on the market. MiFID came into force with some other stuff. I didn't like it that much, let's say, the Forex CFD thing. And I was invited like by another company. It was totally different. It was mostly fund management, wealth management, like big portfolios of clients. It was interesting. Also a very good experience where I was like combining new kind of regulated businesses, let's say, knowledge. And then some other companies like Social Trading Network, like...
Basically, Liudmila is right now enumerating all kinds of businesses that are present in Cyprus.
Yes, exactly.
Fund management, social networks, and Forex, of course, and brokerage, yes.
And a bit of the crypto industry, which
is another one,
yes,
very popular.
Cyprus.
You are Vice President of Compliance in a large holding, global company, with many places where it's situated, it's located, many legal entities, I'm sure, with different types of regulation. How is it complicated to build compliance infrastructure in a large global company?
So, as I said, I was invited to help to frame and to structure the compliance on the holding level, just to unify certain procedures. But in this case, it's just like to make a first assessment where we are, okay, to understand, prioritize, let's say, jurisdictions, what we need to do, like which entities are of the most important, let's say, for the company. And then you are building it from the scratch. Let's say, like, maybe that was a wrong statement. You're not building it from the scratch, but you're just trying to systemize and bring together and use certain common, let's say, KPIs, if we can call them in compliance, or certain things which would be somehow like, okay, if we call it this way, it will be something similar, we'll be getting similar explanations or results or details from each entity. So unifying the approach in compliance in general.
Right, but when you have, for example, the US entity, I'm sure that it's becoming kind of like the leading entity in terms of compliance, and you will...
You know, it's a challenge because it's a holding company. It's not supposed to have operations, okay? Right. And we're trying to keep it this way. So holding to keep being, let's say, just a holding company with only, it has no operations as such. As we know, like there is an operational company and there is a holding company. So here it's exactly the same. So the whole goal here now we're building this system called GRS system, like governance risk compliance. So just to unify the units, let's say to do the regulatory compliance, to do the AML, sanctions, tax reporting, like whatever we have on the compliance roadmap, to unify it and to bring under the same umbrella. And when we consolidate information for the annual reports, to use more or less, unified form of information and summarizing them in a way much more readable or understandable.
Our audience mostly consists of compliance officers in small or let's say young companies. So this means that most of these companies have become big companies quite recently. Let's say you have a running financial business already.
Yeah.
It may be a crypto business. In most cases, it's a crypto business. Where to start? What to be afraid of? Let's say American, like U.S. sanctions, for example, to be like first thing, U.S. sanctions, don't get anybody who is under sanctions. Or let's say some other things. What is like the first thing where to run?
Actually, you touch a very good subject. You're a lawyer, okay? So like when you go and you choose any university you want to study, okay? You can say, okay, I want to be a lawyer, okay? So there is already such a profession as a lawyer, right? Yeah. So show me any university which has compliance as a profession.
Yeah, it was actually one of my questions.
Yeah, and there are lots of like things. I see now new companies, okay, coming here. Yes, of course, my background is very solid with the Cyprus legislation and with EU legislation as such is the primary thing, right? Because I have been following the development of the regulatory base in Cyprus under CySEC since 2008.
You have witnessed basically all the stages.
Exactly, yeah. So, and it's not only about the development of the legislation as such, of the law, of the directives, it's also circulars. I remember what we were submitting. I remember what was asked, let's say, and it's called experience as well. So someone who is coming now and who wants to become a compliance officer, okay? Especially like if we have some people like, from like certain background. Sometimes I think that the compliance, I don't know who is to blame here, maybe the banks or something, because they used to say, oh, it's compliance department which did not approve your account opening. So for some reasons, sometimes I'm doing the statistical question, and maybe you can also encourage your clients to keep asking the statistical question to understand the level of general education about what compliance is. So ask them, what does it mean for you compliance? Out of my experience, most of them would be saying, it's onboarding clients, it's collecting documents, right?
Yes.
And where actually, this is part of AML, let's say, right? Construction of the economic profile, understanding what your client is, who came to you to do the business, okay? What kind of services would be appropriate or not? And then we start going into the regulatory compliance part, which is huge. And many people, they don't see that. And legal, as a lawyer, knowing the law and making agreements, okay, this is more legal work, let's put it this way. Writing a manual or trying to set up a process or establish a new procedure, this is more compliance thing rather than the legal one. So all this kind of background, and when I see these new companies, right, when they come, the new compliance officers, they want just, okay, where should I start? First of all, you have to understand the jurisdiction your company is located and getting licensed.
Get the certificate, CySEC certificate.
Yeah, I don't want to be that skeptical about that, okay? I've seen people who got this certificate they have different kind of skills. But if they lack experience, if they didn't go for this development by submitting these requests ad hoc or like applicable to all the company's reports, okay, they will not have this experience, what actually means to work with CySEC or like what is the legislation. So just passing the certificate doesn't mean that you will be, unless you have extraordinary common sense approach or something else, you know. For me, it's not always, and of course it's a certain standard level, but it doesn't always tell me, let's say, that this person would be really just right immediately able to start doing the compliance work.
You have a very good, let's say, contact with your contact person in CySEC?
Look, it's all about the relationship, you know, and of course, like wherever I'm going.
Because, for example, we have a regulated entity also, and we're waiting for, let's say, I think we notified of some changes in our company, let's say a year ago, and they still didn't record it. But you have better contact, definitely.
Look, I should tell you, like, for example, of course, they're trying, okay? And being a very challenging, let's say, jurisdiction as such, CySEC role is really important, and big market players, they're regulated under the CySEC umbrella, okay? They have a very important role. They're trying, okay? And what is good, it's Mediterranean approach. You still can communicate with people, first of all. You can talk to them. Yes, they're open. You can, and if you apply proactive approach, let's say your company, okay, there are such brilliant products now on the market, right? And if you come and with simple words, you explain them what is actually your product about, how does it fit into the Cyprus legislation or EU legislation, and how they can feel that this new regulated entity will not put in danger CySEC name. And they will be open to you. Let's say some countries, some people are coming like, oh, we want to push away. Okay, CySEC will take its time, but they just want to make sure that they will not put the country and the jurisdiction, you know, because there are different like reviews, peers reviews, or some other, you know, like which are happening on the EU level, and they want just to make sure that they're right in their decisions.
Is it a different approach of CySEC? Is it different from, let's say, other regulators in the Mediterranean, Malta, Gibraltar?
Yeah, it's a bit different, okay? So, and we have so many EU member states. So in some other jurisdictions in Europe, in other EU member states, still there is a tick the box, a rule approach. Which slowly doesn't show to be that efficient. Okay, so they understand that, and now after Brexit, you know, it's also like challenging. They're trying to see which local authority can become a kind of a sort of a benchmark on certain kind of supervisory area. So it's all debatable, but still each country, going back to your question, where to start? Understand jurisdiction you are getting your license. Get to know well legislation which will be applicable to your way of business, and then start saying, okay, you will be doing like providing services outside of that country, how passporting works, what is required. You will prioritize where you need to put your attention when you start expanding your business further.
Onboarding users from different countries can be challenging, right? This is because you have to adapt to various regulatory specifics of each region and jurisdiction you work with. Sumsub has recently launched its Workflow Builder in order to help you customize your onboarding process. And with it, it will run smoothly for your customers while keeping you compliant with all your regulatory requirements. In Sumsub Builder, you can set up a particular set of triggers for your onboarding process and the actions that will automatically follow. And these triggers may include anything from age to country of residence. And you can make as many workflows as necessary for a variety of risk scenarios. And for example, if you use other Sumsub solutions, you can mix and match various verification checks in order to maximize the benefits from each of them. And finally, this will not require any additional coding on your side. With Workflow Builder, you can make your compliance system as sharp and effective as you if you were a robot. If you are interested in Workflow Builder, just click the link in the description and book our demo. How do you manage risk matrix right now? Because like obviously we have so many challenges that are just coming one after another, and of course war in Ukraine is one of the terrible situations that have kind of like created a perfect storm on the side of compliance, obviously. Also, of course, Turkey, which basically, I don't know, you probably heard about this, they passed a law that says basically you don't need to report your source of wealth if you establish,
That would be just, but like people, with this law, then they will be able to deliver money to Turkish bank,
of course,
or something. But
avoiding sanctions.
But then it's not only about the sanction, it's also from the email perspective. But then if they want to stream this money somewhere outside of Turkey, that will be really a challenge.
So this means that Turkey will be just risked out as a country.
If they officially making such kind of strong statement that we will not be checking for the source of funds.
Yes.
Okay, source of wealth, you still can use it from somewhere else, but source of funds, actual source of funds, that would be something challenging, and to stream those money and for the Turkish banks to have their correspondent banks and like that. This is my guess, but...
Well, Turkey is also a grey-listed country right now by FATF.
And it's not Europe, so it has never been totally adequate AML procedure. So in a way, they will bring money to the country. This is a good thing for them.
Yes, but obviously they're helping to avoid sanctions for people. Eastern Europe.
We need to understand. So going back again to your question, okay, how to start doing that? Once again, what I'm doing, and I'm a visual person, right? And if someone is just coming to me with one single question, okay, and it's a part of a big puzzle.
Yeah, and you start discovering.
And what I'm saying, okay, let's put this. We have, you see, the channel of execution, okay? If it's banks, it doesn't matter. If it's broker, it doesn't matter, okay? You need to say, okay, your initial client sits, let's say, this jurisdiction, okay? Which broker is the first broker where this client has an account, okay? So that broker, which upstream broker or brokers there are on the line. So, and then you start seeing the whole path, okay? You see jurisdictions, what is going on there with their AML requirements, with the sanction requirements. And once again, especially what you mentioned this year, okay? Sometimes people, they were thinking, okay, there are only US sanctions by OFAC. That's great. But then on top of that, if it's an EU entity, then you have EU sanctions on top of that.
Yes.
If you happen to have a UK resident or someone is depositing you GB, British pounds, or is asking for an instrument which is listed on London Stock Exchange, you have UK nexus and you're subject to the UK sanctions as well. Then if you have someone with a Swiss franc or something on the Swiss stock exchange, then it's a Swiss sanction, regime. Canadian, Australian, there's so many. So you need really to write it down with your team to see the whole execution flow. And then you will start analyzing what would be applicable to you under which circumstances, what can influence. And please bear in mind, which is, it was maybe the number one question. I think it beat all my statistical, I was doing kind of my personal statistics. What was the most common question? But this is not on sanctions. Why did something happen? Always bear in mind that banks, brokers, depositories, whoever is in a chain of execution, they have the right to have their own risk appetite.
Right. So
if management, together with control functions, they say, we do not process this type of transaction, this kind of clients, okay? Maybe in the law there are no restrictions on them, but the management of that organization decided our risk appetite is different. They're gonna change their mind.
In terms of countries, in terms of geography, there's big six. We know these countries: Sudan, Libya, etc., etc. What countries in your business are no-go?
That's for sure, Iran, no, these are on the countries, and we're taking very precautions, but we don't have that market.
Okay.
In that sense. Mm-hmm. So thanks God, what was before, on the challenging list, our business is outside of that.
Do you have a lot of enhanced due diligence in your procedures?
Look, again, it's it's a risk-based approach, understanding, and what also is important, when you understand your flow, how it goes, you see that one jurisdiction has one approach in terms of identifying source of funds.
Yes.
It's my personal thing, identifying and screening your account holder, we can see different schemas, what exists out there in the world. But a proper identification of the source of funds it goes both. And for sanctions, let's say monitoring program, for ML, terrorist financial program, if you see that you're streaming, especially if you're part of the group, if you see that your first broker or first bank, who is like the initial recipient or of the money or of the assets, okay, then within your group will be going to another subsidiary with higher regulatory requirements.
Yes.
The tendency would be that we would try to make the, let's say, the regulatory requirements of the subsidiary with higher.
Right.
Let's say
it will be with priority.
Yes. I mean, it's still challenging to explain for the beginning of this chain why it's needed to be done this way.
Right.
But if you're part of the group, this is, I believe, one of the most efficient mitigation techniques you can apply.
So in your case, for example, as far as I understand, the U.S. entity will lead.
As I said, U.S. entity is not an operational.
It's not an
company.
operational.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but like for example, we have we see among our entities.
Yes.
Which has the highest, let's say, or more complex or more complicated regulatory requirements.
Which is the US probably.
US is the US sanction. Let's say we have some obligations there, but
Cyprus?
Yeah, Cyprus entity is always challenging. It's in EU, right? So any other jurisdictions, we will try, let's say, if they're streaming their channel or their orders, let's say, or things. Yeah, that's why I'm saying also for other jurisdictions, if you're a small company, okay, if you're not part of holding and you have your upstream broker, you have your bank where you keep your own or your client's money, okay, always try to see because when you do the diligence during the onboarding with them, right, you explain your procedures. They don't do it just for fun. They want to understand how adequate are your existing or upcoming procedures to their requirements and to their standards.
Right, of course.
So, and I'm calling this to do homework. Maybe you're a Cyprus entity, but you have, let's say, your bank account in the UK. So try to see what would be the difference between the two and try to make this extra mile. At least show them efforts that you are going there.
Do you use any consultants for your compliance procedures, for formulating the compliance program, etc., etc.? Do you use any consultants, or you just...
For the time being, let's say we are still using, because as I said, we are just structuring what is already within the organization. There have been lots of things done, okay? Maybe just with one approach, with another approach. So for the time being, we're consolidating them, making sure that they're there and if they're efficient, right? And when it comes to the consolidation on the group level, we will see whether we're going to go for some external advisors, because holding company has its own separate reporting to SEC and to NASDAQ, being a listed company. It's a bit different, but still,
I know that you're a fan of technologies.
Yes, I am.
In the area of RegTech, and that you use different solutions.
Yeah.
Which ones would you recommend to the audience, especially when it comes to risk management in general?
Okay.
What kind of orchestration do you use right now in your company?
Look, obviously we use Sumsub. So for screening clients, yes, it's different systems which we use. Then again, the market abuse or some other, when you have your own trading platform, you have different options. You may have technology from the outside, or you have your own technology doing, let's say, developed within the organization. And it's a bit challenging, big organizations, especially with big data, it's always debatable. There is always two different crashes which are happening. There are product developers within the company who say, no, we're going to develop what you need actually for the market, but being mostly from the IT background and lacking a little bit and the desire and willingness to understand the actual regulation where this requirement comes from, okay? They might deliver a nice IT thing, right? But would it be meaningful? Would it be delivering the results you are actually expected by the regulator? That's a question mark for me.
Right.
Okay. On the other hand, okay, there are other companies which may develop. They can become experts on certain kind of reporting, on certain kind of stuff. But then once you integrate with them, you are becoming heavily reliant on them. And if something is happening, unless that service provider is changing something for you, even your reputational risk can be there, or you're becoming a company which has all these, specialists within the organization, which is really costly nowadays, or you're finding this balance solution with the service providers. You make these arrangements and you do not make yourself dependent so much on that service provider. At least that you have flexibility if things happen. And this year showed us that we must have 2 or 3 backups, let's say, in certain things. Right. And the most important, like when you have your team within the company. And once again, we were discussing that last week on the compliance conference, right? That this is the common sense approach, okay? So you need to understand what you do, what your company is doing, okay? And then trying to find the most appropriate way for them.
Right. So you do not disclose the names.
It wouldn't make like any sense doing it now, let's say. And again, for what kind of services, right? Like screening clients, validating documents, or like doing some trading activities. It's just so many, let's say, or what we do and how we do, with whom. It's bits and pieces, like maybe some companies, they will provide us market data. Maybe some of them, they're providing something like that, like big names like Bloomberg, like Refinity with WorldCheck. Okay, so there are like these bases which are known, let's say, to the market, and regulators, they feel more confident knowing that you have them as your like systems for 1, 2, 3, 4, tasks. For the rest, it's still like, it's also with the provider. If the provider is new, and what I like about the tech nowadays, there are so many bright minds now on the market coming up with amazing solutions.
Yes.
It takes time. They are coming, they're approaching big companies. Let's say also Freedom is being approached by different like service providers. You're just lucky guys to be there at the beginning, so we could be like training with each other on a regular basis. But they're coming. They have great technologies.
Get into, let's say, professional things and advice to beginners and professionals in the field. What reading would you recommend?
What reading? Okay, if we're talking about the Cyprus jurisdiction, honestly, this was in one company I was interviewing lots of like candidates for compliance department, okay? And if they had no clue about regulatory compliance or something, I was always addressing them to the CySEC website, because all the legislation, especially circulars, if you go for them, you can sense this like chronological thing, how it was going through. Then in terms of education and compliance, let's put it this way, okay? Professional knowledge, I find it quite, good source where you can get good qualifications. International Compliance Association.
ICA.
Yeah. Their courses. Yes. Let's say there are like some, like I'm a member of the Association for Certified Sanction Specialists. Okay. This is mainly on the US sanctions. Now they're expanding also to the EU one. And believe me, like it's constant, let's say, reading. Things are coming out. So if one wants to become a compliance officer, okay, it's really understand the regulatory background, not only from the legal perspective. Start reading these laws, directives, and try to understand what was the essence. I remember in one company, I had a brilliant girl, okay? She was like, this IML compliance monitoring program, what can I do that? I said, open the law, open the directive, start reading it, okay? And just put, okay, this is the requirement, these are the practical things, and see how this applies to the company as we are now, okay? And what actions can prove that you were doing your monitoring of the company. She started like, I saw her doing that, and then I don't remember, maybe, okay, with operational load and everything, it took her maybe 2 weeks, but she's a very diligent girl, really. And then she came to me like, Liudmila, thank you so much for giving me this task. Like, what happened? By reading the law and writing down these things, I actually understood the whole purpose, why it's there, and what we actually need to do, and how this actually applicable to our type of business. And since then, she feels like, I don't know how many steps more confident in what she was doing. So I'm encouraging people, you want to become a compliance, don't expect someone to come and give you, go into training, and if you're sitting on your phone or in parallel answering your emails, this will not make you a compliance officer, no. So, and then again, like develop your common sense approach, try to understand the cases. If you have some detective mode or something like that, compile and construct an economic profile of your clients. It's a kind of investigation. Do you actually understand the nature of your client? What this client came for you, to do with you? So if you feel confident about that, yes. And obviously, develop more and more your communicational skills, because especially for those like earlier this year, like I was also like speaker on a different kind of conference, right? And they were asking me about management things, okay? Sometimes you need to get, first of all, experience, right? And you need to be able to talk to your peers, to your teammates, right? And from you. Remember yourself, right? When you need to deliver a certain message to the management.
Oh, that's always.
Yeah.
Always
So, and again, these are the skills you're developing, right? Yes. With the time, you didn't have them from the very beginning, right?
Yes.
But you're learning. You're learning how to bullet point, like the summary of facts, what you're suggesting, and you're coming up with solutions, right?
Yes.
With options.
Yes.
And then you do the brainstorming, and you're showing the guys, we're all in the same boat. Let's see where we can, like.
Yeah.
You see when the small fly.
Yeah. Sometimes the management looks at compliance departments like that.
Yes, exactly. Are you sure you didn't make this arrange the slides to be from before?
Yeah. So you were very complimentary to CySEC, of course. Still, I mean, obviously you have this opportunity in the future to become the chairperson of CySEC. If this happens, what would be the first thing that you would do?
That's an amazing question. Didn't expect this comment. What I could say, like becoming a chairman of such organization, I don't think I would ever consider even something like that. But obviously, this jurisdiction has lots of, let's say, already like as heritage, let's say, what they took from the previous years, and simply understand, let's say, what kind of jurisdictions they would like to be, how they want to be positioned, and bring in like specialists and making more team. I'm really glad that they have more and more like specialists on the IT side. Like, I don't know like about your clients, but I have noticed that they have more and more specialists who are able to work with data, who are capable to make sense of all these like reports, numbers, and information they have been provided with. So it's something there. And also last week, which Esma said, for the coming 5 years, one of their priorities would be working with data, analyzing the data. So priority will be going to fintech.
Yes.
You know, as also Timur has, let's say, the owner, the major shareholder of Freedom, is digitalization, how we can go securely, you know, with the security in the digital world. This is gonna be something like, and again, you know, with papers, with all this kind of stuff, ESG, you know, it's a huge topic now. Like if we're talking about that environment, we need to think about that now. Speaking about this, like Cyprus regulator, how they can make digitalization to be a normal working efficient part of life, and also for the regulated entities, I think that would be a very good area to concentrate their forces.